Good morning, everyone. This is Pastor Robert Wilson with God's Way Apostolic Cathedral coming to you this morning with our Sunday morning message. I am out on the road this week. I am in just out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, at a TA this morning, and I am actually heading back to Georgia. It's been a bittersweet week, that's the way I would want to say it, because of the fact that we definitely have way too much violence uh, going on out here in our country. I know people. Good morning, love. I know people. Good morning, Sister Toy. I know people are truly, truly fighting for gun control. But the thing, and I'm saying but because the thing I look at is in the Bible, God gave us the law, and yet the law couldn't save us. Why? Because we have to actually have a change of mindset. We have to have a change of heart, and that would actually curb uh, some of the violence and stuff that we do. As a matter of fact, I kind of really wanted to post a verse of the day yesterday. It was Galatians 5. I'm trying to remember 13, but what it had to do was all of the commands were summed up in this one, where it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. All of the commands were summed up into that one. So if we were to show love, just show love to one another, how much different this world would be. But because we have chosen to take God out of so much of our lives, so much of the things that we do, like I said before in my little in one of my broadcasts, when I was getting my truck fixed, the experiment is over. We know what life is like now without God. We can see how the world has become without God. So why don't we stop this experiment and start focusing on what would life be with God? Because we can see everything. I mean, I don't know the exact number. I just know after we came back from the holidays, they said after the babies were shot, they had 11 mass shootings. And I know I've looked, just scanned through online, when I get on my website page, whatever. I know we've had a shooting every day, sometimes two or three shootings a day. And if you think that this is going to get better without God, we're going to be so sadly mistaken. It's not. And the sad part is one day it may be us or one of our loved ones, and it's going to tear us apart. This is a time for us to truly, truly start standing. This is a time for us to truly, truly want to fight for God. All of us Christians who strongly believe in our Lord Jesus Christ, this is a time to stand strong and fight. That's enough of letting the devil have his way in our children's lives, in our family lives. This is enough of this. It is so heartbreaking, and I don't even care if it's somebody's agenda, but people are losing their lives over a whole bunch of I don't want God in my life and I'll do whatever I feel. It's a kind of a segue up into my sermon, My Wide Path. It's a passage found in Matthew, the 7th chapter, verses 13 and 14. In it, it's God, Jesus telling them about the path to eternal life. And let me go ahead and read it because I'm going to get caught up. But, like I said, I like to kind of talk about my week. Yes, definitely we saying share the message, tag people in the message. Every time we get up here, honestly, we feel that you should be tagging someone. You should be sharing it. Why? Because everybody needs help. Everybody needs the Lord. Um, I understand, every sermon we preach may not touch you the way, you may want it, we may want it, but it may touch someone else the way they want it or God needs it to touch them. That's why we always implore everyone to share and to tag folks in it. And what I'm talking about today, you would want to tag your loved ones. You would want your friends. Hey, one of us, the Bible teaches, one of us plants and one of us water. We may not be able to change everybody's mind, but if we can put a seed in you and the next person that comes along can actually water it and God give that increase in them and they change their life over, we've done our job. But if we don't get a chance to put that seed in someone, that's why like I said again, I guess I'm stressing sharing and tagging right now. Then we can't do it, and that includes you. If you're tagging your loved ones, you're actually putting a seed in them. And like I said, we may be the one doing the watering in this case, but God can actually help change somebody's life. This is my true way. When we got our ministry together, Pastor A and myself, it was fire. She's fire for God, and I'm desire. And I have such a strong desire, strong passion for God's children to be saved. Yes, it is in me. I may not know everyone personally, but I want you to be saved. I want you to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. No, I don't get caught up in a lot of these foolish debates with people. Why? Because when your mind is made up to not want to be right, you're not going to be right. I'm also, as I'm saying, good morning, Brother Kevin. I'm also going to be starting a men's group. Yes, a men's group. Why? Because God has inspired me to want us to start a men's group to help us become better. I don't care, saved men, unsaved men, Christian men, non-Christian men. It's a Christian-based thing, but all men need to be better than what we are. I have reflected on my life and looked at it. I think we're about 2 generations we have allowed of men just to fall through the crack. I don't want to get too far in depth into that, but the thing is, as men, we are programmed to view things a certain way. As men, are we truly doing everything that we're supposed to be doing? My motto line for this is, in order to lead, you must learn to follow. That is what I'm saying. So again, ladies, you got men in your life, sons, brothers, whatever. When that time comes, please tag them, because I don't know everybody. And I don't have everybody in my thing. But that is something I am going to be starting. It is a men's group. It is about being better men in our community, better men in our homes, better men in the lives of those that depend on us. You're not a man because you have, or you're not a man just because you have a Johnson. That's the way I like to say it, because it just sounds clean. A Johnson, that doesn't make you a man. It makes you a male. That's what your gender is, a male. But a man actually does other things that makes him qualifications. There are standards that in play. And the way that we are programmed actually is our downfall, because we actually, and I told my wife this the other day, we view women as objects. That's the reason. And this is not a part of my sermon, y'all. This is just what I'm feeling. We view women as objects. That's the reason why we can lay with them and keep on moving on like nothing is important. That's the reason why when we cheat on our wives or our significant other, whoever we got, we can sit there and make a silly statement like, it really didn't mean anything to me. What the devil do you mean it didn't mean anything to you? It meant something for you to have to go do it. I think that's one of the most lamest, stupidest thing a man or a guy can say to a woman if he slept with someone is, it didn't mean anything to me. Really? Really? So you would throw away your relationship, your marriage, over something that didn't mean anything to you? Well, I sure hate to see when something does mean something to you, because your marriage would be completely over. But anyway, that's not where I was trying to go this morning. I'm actually going to my wide path. Matthew, the 7th chapter, verse 13 and 14. And it says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. And many enter through it. The road that leads to destruction. Many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only, this is the NIV translation, y'all, and only a few find it. Now, that right there should let you know that we're in for some tough time. We're in for a good journey. Why? Because God is letting us know that the path to eternal life is not this big old wide, broad path that, like I say, like what everybody does. As a matter of fact, my little story that I got for you, my eyes are a little watery this morning. 2 children growing up in the same house. They can be twins for all we care. I don't care. Male, both boys, both girls, one of each. It doesn't matter. But 2 children growing up in the same household, right? That means they're exposed to the same teachings. They're exposed to the same things The whole atmosphere is the same for them in the house. As they get to an age to leave, the parents give both of them money, right? They're in one of these houses where the parents can give them money to actually take off. Now, one of the child tends to spend their money foolishly, doing whatever they want, spend it on everything they see. Advertisement pops on TV. They want this, they want that, they want this, right? What ends up happening to that child? Well, of course, that child is going to end up broke. That child is going to have a lot of useless material possessions, and that child is going to be back into a position where it's going to be reflecting on, I wish I had done things different. A choice. The fact that I'm broke, a consequence of my choice. The other child spends their money wisely. They're not out there buying all the latest and the greatest, the fanciest, the name brands, or whatever you want to call it, designer this, designer that. But yet they money builds and they grow. And the next thing you know, as time goes on, they have the resources to take care of their needs. Why? Because they spent it wisely. It's the same thing in how we do our walk with God. When God has given us this opportunity to live our lives, how are we living our lives? Are we on this path of where we say, I'm going to do everything the way I want to do it? I'm going to buy and I'm going to do things, even though God said it may not be the thing to do. I'm going to do it. Why? Because this is my life. I'm going to do it my way. How many people do you know that wants to do things my way? I know a lot of people that want to do things my way, right? I don't mean my way, Robert's way. I mean my way as that person who's saying it. This is my life. You know, we got those sayings. You're not my daddy. You're not my mama. I do the things I want to do. You don't pay my rent. You don't pay my bills. You don't buy my clothes. You know, all those little sayings like that are things that show that we are so caught up on how we want to do things, right? So what does the Bible say? We know a lot of people like that. We know a lot of people that's so willing to want to do things their own way, even in the church. That's not my God. That's not the way I believe it. That's not my truth, right? But here's the thing about that. Who truth is this supposed to be when you're in church, when you're a Christian? Who truth is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be my truth? Because if it's my truth, I can go back to the Bible and point out where the Bible said back in Genesis, just before Noah built the ark, that everybody was doing what they felt was right in their own heart. And the Bible said at the times was wicked, because they were doing what they felt in their own heart. And us being born in sin means that we got sin in us. And if what's right, what we may feel is right now, may be very sinful. Just like these crazies that's going out here just shooting folks. Like I said, I'm still just distraught about the babies, y'all. Y'all just don't understand how hard that hit me, because we're talking about innocent children. I'm not saying the other folks are not innocent, but babies and old people really get me when people go around and just abuse them and kill them and stuff like that, because it's harder for them to defend themselves against the things. They can't move as fast. Sometimes they maybe not even thinking as clearly as they need to think to do things. But anyway, when we do things that we feel is right in our own heart, it is going to lead us down a path of destruction. It's going to be my, I, and they even say they. They are doing it. Why can't I do it? Right? Have you ever heard that? They're doing it over there. They're doing it over there. I want to be a part of the in crowd, so I'm going to go over there and do it. But that in crowd is leading you on a path of destruction. I don't care if it's adultery, fornication, drugs, too much alcohol, idolatry, just riotous living. That's the word I want to get. A riotous living way in which we are just clearly not following the way of God. As my wife likes to say, in the cloud of witness, I could pick a bunch of people, but there's no need for me to pick a bunch of people. Matter of fact, the one person the people I'm going to pick is a bunch of people, the children of Israel. When the children of Israel was in Egypt, they got to complaining. They got to complaining about the fact that they were being oppressed, and they wanted God to get them out of this oppression. And so God sends them Moses, right? But because things don't go the way that they want them to go, they start complaining. They start complaining about, why, Moses, are you making life harder for us? Because this is not the way we expected God to deliver us from our oppressors, right? With Pharaoh and them adding more task and toils on them. The fact that the people would probably even hate on y'all, because we think about it. When oppressors start being challenged, they want to keep that position. And matter of fact, it's happening now today here. They want to keep that position, and they start to hate and to oppress even more to try to keep you down. But see, back to what I said back in the beginning, if we were to love everybody, you wouldn't have that issue, right? But because of that, they tried to keep them even more tightly, in their hands and their grip. And all they were doing was causing them to rebel even more, and they wanted to get out. I'm talking about the children of Israel. I'm talking about doing things my way. When God had finally delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt, they're being chased by the Egyptians. What does God do? God puts up fire to keep the Egyptians from catching up with them as they traveled across, as they traveled with all the wares of the Egyptians, including their farm animals, their livestock, their money, clothing, everything. They took it all and just left. When they got to the Red Sea, what did they start doing? Now, God had already performed miracle after miracle after miracle, but they started complaining. You done brought us out here to die. We should have stayed back where we were. Complaining. Why? Because God is not delivering them the way they feel God should do. My way. God is not delivering me my way, so I'm going to complain. I got to deal with this Red Sea. I got to deal with these folks coming after me. God is not just taking me out and putting me up on a higher ground or a safer place. He's not doing that, so God is not really working with me. I got to deal with this nut that somebody said they are a man or a woman of God, and they're up here trying to tell me these things to do, and all it seems to be doing to me is making my life worse. But see, God always has a plan. And in God's plan, the last thing we got to worry about is it not working, right? So what happens after they got to the Red Sea? All of a sudden, God had Moses lift his hands up with his staff, and it split. But not only did it split, because anybody with any scientific fact, or any just not even scientific fact, or just any common sense know, if you put water on dirt and let it sit there for a while, it's going to become what, y'all? It's going to become mud. And mud, and you trying to walk through mud, it's a hard, tedious task. But God said, no, I got this, y'all. I ain't even worried about that. I'm going to make the land dry after I parted the Red Sea. So God, like I said, he already had the plan. He already knew what he was going to do. As they went across on dry land to the other side, the Egyptians see it, your enemy that's coming after you. See, hey, wait a minute, they didn't do this. But because they're so full of hate and rage and anger just to want to come and just get you and kill you, whatever the case may be, they tried to go along a path that God did not have for them. And guess what happened? They didn't make it. Because it wasn't for them to be on that path. It was for his children, the children of Israel, to make it to the other side so that they may get to the promised land. So when God has a path for you, it's not for everybody to be on. It's only for those that God has, say, anointed, God had chosen to be on that path. That's who is going to be able to make it with you on that path. So they get to the other side. Now, I done told you, when they left, they took livestock. They took clothing and all of that stuff with them. But what did they start doing, y'all? They started complaining about not having water. They started complaining about not having meat. They just started complaining about not having an image to worship. They started complaining about Moses' leadership. They started, even his sisters, and his sister and his brother started complaining about his leadership also. Complaint after complaint after complaint. Why? Because things were not going the way they felt it should go. This is a wide path, y'all, because it's not going the way I felt it should go. It's not going the way I think it should go. I don't believe God is in this. And so now I'm going to complain about everything that's going on. I done forgot God parted the Red Sea. I done forgot about all the 10 plagues that God did back in Egypt. I done forgot about the fact that he done gave us manna. He done gave us water. He done gave us quail. I done forgot about all of that. Why? Because it's not going the way that I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a snap. Boom, I'm in the promised land. But that's not the way God works. That's why when we sit there and look at doing things my way, that path becomes wider, because more of us want to join that path, and we want to start neglecting, forgetting, placing God out of the picture because it's not going the way I want it to go. They ended up losing 2 generations, 40 years, because a generation is 20 years, y'all. 2 generations got lost in their walk to the wilderness. They said it was like a 40-day journey, but it took them 40 years. Why? Complaint after complaint. The fact that they didn't want to recognize God, the fact that they wanted an idol God, the fact that they were just not happy with what God was doing in their life because it wasn't the way that they wanted it to be. So what ended up happening? They perished. They perished in the wilderness. And those who came after them were the ones who were able to make it to the promised land. But it was a lot of people that lost their lives because of their disobedience, because of their lack of faith, because of their lack of gratitude of everything the Lord has done for them. The fact that they wanted him out of the picture and they wanted their own God. That's what the calf was there, everybody. The calf was their own God, not the God that saved them, not the God that gave them the fire, not the God that fed them and gave them things to drink, not the God that was protecting them. No, they wanted the calf. Now, what did the calf do for them? Outside of look nice because it was made out of gold, what did the calf do for them? And the answer to that question, of course, is absolutely nothing. But that's the way we see things. When we sit there and think that we're doing something great by taking God out of this, by taking God out of that, it may look nice in the beginning, but it has done absolutely nothing for you because it's not going to protect you. It's not going to feed you by sustaining you out there. It's not going to give you what you need at the time that you need it. Pastor Rob, you just talking. I am just talking. Because I guarantee you, you can create whatever God that you want, and you can pray just like they were in the book of with Elijah, and pray from the sun up to sundown and see how much your life changes with that one. But you pray to the living God and you trust and believe and have the faith, like he said, of a mustard seed, and see how much of a difference it makes. I don't care if you say, I don't want to believe me, but there are doctors, there are scientists, there are other people that can tell you prayer works. Why do you think they still allow prayer in the hospital? Because prayer works. They tell you if you got someone that can get a prayer through, call them and have them pray. Because there are times doctors even written people off in the hospital and people have came in and prayed for them. And guess what? The whole situation turned around. Prayer works. Don't ever dismiss prayer. Only an ignorant person would, and I said it, only an ignorant person will dismiss a true living God and your belief in faith and trusting in him that he's going to hear your prayer. Because they don't know what the devil they're talking about, truly ignorant to what's going on. So, as we make these decisions and choices in our life about wanting to do things my way, and you're going to hear me, anytime I talk about a choice, you're going to hear me talk about the blessing and the consequence that come with every choice that we make. There is a blessing and there is a consequence. And when people lend me their ear, I tell them, if God is in this picture, your consequence is going to come first. Your blessing is going to come second. If this is you, your blessing is going to come first and your consequence is going to come second. What do you mean by that, Pastor Robert? My choice. My mother told us not to go outside one day. Or we couldn't leave. I couldn't go to my friend's house until she came back. And it was getting dark. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go ahead and stick over there anyway, because by the time she come back, it's going to be too dark for me to go to my friend's house. Now, my mother told me not to go, but I went anyway. My blessing. I got a chance to go hang out with my friend, and I got a chance to play and everything. So my buddy decided we wanted to go to the store. He was riding me on his bicycle, and he kept on trying to take his hand off the handlebar. That's where I was sitting riding the bike. And he kept trying to take his hands off the handlebar I was riding. I'm like, oh, no, we're not going to do this, because I felt like I would fall on the ground. And sure enough, he did it one time. I panicked. I jumped. My foot got caught in the smoke. And sure enough, I fell on the ground. Face hit the curb, the street, blood all coming out my mouth, everything. Consequence. My blessing was getting a chance to go to my friend's house to go play. Now, all of a sudden, I got to deal with this fact that I done fell on the ground, scrubbed up my face, got blood coming all out of my mouth, had to go back home and had to explain how did this happen. Now, being a child, right? What do? When things, we feel like we're going to get in trouble? We lie, right? So I lied and told my mama that I was going to the store and my foot hit the concrete step over by the store and I fell and hit the ground and that's what happened to me. Lie. Now, I didn't get in trouble with her, but I got in trouble by the fact that I was messed up from falling off the thing. Would never, ever, ever, ever do that again. When mama told me not to go or wait forever, guess what I learned? I will wait till she came. That's what I'm talking about. My blessing was I got a chance to go and enjoy them, but the consequence came afterwards. And sometimes the consequence won't be that physical. Sometimes the consequence may be other things that go on. But when God tells you to do something, look at Joseph. When God told Joseph, or in his dream, Joseph felt that he would be like a ruler over everyone. How long did it take Joseph to get to that point? Joseph went through being beat up, sold into slavery, lied on, thrown into prison. 20 years. 20 years he went through all of this before he got to the position where God basically said he would be in. He had to go through consequences. He had to go through trials, tests, whatever you want to call them, incidents in his life. He had to go through. Took 20 years. Noah, God said it was going to rain. Noah out there building the ark. Now we can say surmise whatever we want about what went on, but you know they were mocking him. The Bible did say that 120 years of this, building this boat, no rain, never rained, and people are mocking him. You know how that is when you decide that you want to be different from the norm, different from the crowd. All of a sudden, people all of going to mock you. Something funny about that person, whatever. Took him 120 years of going through that. We can't even go through a couple of days of people hating on us and talking about us without us wanting to lose our mind. And especially today, we already see how this goes. The guy who shot his doctor, why? Because he didn't help him with his pain. Hello, I don't know what you were doing in your life, honestly, but some things we do bring on ourselves by our diets, how we treat ourselves. You can't get mad at somebody else because you made a decision to go out there like I used to do and jump off of steps. And all of a sudden now my knees are messed up and I want to blame the doctor because he can't cure my knee pain. No, I should have stopped jumping off the steps. Anyway, Saul to Paul. Now, when Saul was converted to become Paul, before he got converted, he was blinded. Jesus blinded him, and he was blinded for 3 days, right, in his conversion. And you say, well, Pastor Rob, that's not a long time. That's not that bad of a wait, a lousy 3 days. But here's the thing, though, everyone. During those 3 days, he didn't eat, nor did he drink. Now, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I know for a fact with myself and a couple of other folks, 3 days of not eating and drinking is a long time. 1 day of eating and not drinking is a long time. That's why a lot of us don't fast, because trying to go a day without eating and drinking is hard until you get used to it. He wasn't used to it. So if you ever tried to fast 3 days of not eating or not drinking, you will realize how long of a time it actually seems. And he had to go through this before he went to Ananias, and Ananias prayed for him, and he got his vision back. We look at, I want to say Gideon first. Well, I could talk about Ruth too. Now, in Ruth's case, I'm looking at her decision, her choice, her decision to follow Naomi after she died. I mean, after her husband died, and Naomi released her to go back to her own hometown, and she said no. Now, I knew, I think it was 10 years after Naomi's husband died, and her sons were already married to them. So that was 10 years that she was with them, and then they died. And I don't get a time frame or timeline, or I didn't see a timeline from the time that Ruth husbands died to the time that she met Boaz. Boaz was her kinsman redeemer. Boaz, the one who actually allowed her to get to the point where she was now like a queen, a princess, or she was over things. She had gotten her blessing from being someone who was picking up food off the ground to someone who had people serving her. But she had to wait. She had to go through some things first before she got to that point. Now I want to talk about Gideon. In the case of Gideon was grown. Gideon didn't have much courage, but Gideon had to go fight. God called him to go fight, right? He's going to be a hero for the children of Israel. He's got to get out there and fight, but he has to go fight a group of men that numbered at least 100 plus 130,000, something along that lines. That there's some differences in it, and I'm not going to get into all of that. It doesn't matter, but it was at least 130,000 men that Gideon had to go fight. Gideon had to build an army. When Gideon called for people to stand up and fight, Gideon only got 30-something thousand people, men, to want to go out and fight. Now, I don't know about you, but 30,000 versus 130 plus doesn't seem much like a fair fight. What it seems like is a slaughter, because what you're looking at, that's almost 4 men to every 1 man you got. That means 4 guys can attack 1 guy at the same time. Now, outside of superhero stuff and the movie stuff and Bruce Lee martial art stuff, Jackie Chan, I don't see 1 man beating 4 men on a regular basis. It doesn't happen, right? But God says, Gideon, you got too many people. Now, if God had called me to go fight a group of folks and I got 30,000 people and they got 130 something plus, and God telling me I got too many folks, I can't work with this. See, that doesn't seem like God is making this fair, right? Because I need more folks. Instead of subtracting, I need to be adding. But in God's sight, when God is in the picture, you don't need all of that. So they drop down to 10,000. God still says you got too many people. They drop down to 300. That's where we get that movie, y'all. 300. Yes. God dropped them down to 300, and 300 people defeated over 130 plus thousand. And he became a hero. Why? Because God was in the picture. We think that if we continue to add more, to build more, all of a sudden God is going to bless us more. But no, that's not how this works, y'all. God is really trying to take away the stuff that we think actually makes us more than what we are, so that he can get us down to our bare minimum, our essence. That's why sometimes you hear people say the Lord has to break you. I don't know if you've ever been broken, but I felt I have been broken. I know I've been broken. It's a point where you just are at your wit's end. You are at a true loss. You don't know what to do. You don't even know how to fix the situation. You done thrown your hands up and surrender. God, I give up. This is for you to fix or you to do, because I can't do anything with this, right? Yes, you will cry. Yes, you will be feeling depressed. Yes, you're probably feeling anxiety. Why? Because you don't know where things are going to go. But that's why you trust in God. That's why the path is narrow, because a lot of us tend to want to do things and fix everything ourselves. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not doing it. 300 versus 130,000 plus doesn't make sense to me. Go somewhere where I show you and I'm going to make you the father of many nations. Why can't I be the father here? Doesn't make much sense to me. The fact that he tells me to row across the water and the storm kicks in and I'm fighting against the storm, but I got to get across to the other side. But you got this storm pushing me back to the other way and I'm using every ounce of strength that I got, but I can't make it. Doesn't make sense to me. He could have just like he did, Jesus did when he got on that boat. The next thing you know, the Bible says they were on the other side. Well, this is when he walked on the water, y'all. Okay? It's because it doesn't make sense to us when God is telling us to do it. That's why they say his thoughts and his ways are so much higher than us. You know, you will never be as wise as God. To bring things a little bit more into today, God created the universe. There are so much things that's going on outside the universe that we don't know anything about. There are so much things going on in our own universe, galaxy, we don't know much about. There are things going on our own planet that we don't know much about. There were certain articles I had a chance just to read titles, and it talked about there was a weird signal coming from the core of the earth. There's a strange creature that came out the sea. There's a strange creature we found on the land. This thing wasn't supposed to be here anymore. It's supposed to be extinct. Okay, but God knew it was still here. God knew the fact that all of these things still existed, right? If he knows the number of hair on your head, he knows it about all the creatures that he created. But we, in our limited knowledge, we don't know everything, but we want to feel like we know everything. So on this narrow path, believing in God is not going to be enough. Wanting to follow after Christ is not going to be enough. Go to Luke, the 9th chapter, first starting at verse 57. We're going to go to verse 62. And in that, I got it pulled up. This is where the three men, Jesus talked to the three men. And in that, they were talking about wanting to follow Jesus, right? But Jesus tells them all something different. This is a narrow path, y'all, because everybody can't do it. Like the Bible says, everyone won't find it. Everybody can't do it. In verse 57 of Luke 9, it says, as they were walking along the road, a man said to him, Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus replied, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. What is that, y'all? It's uncertainty. There is uncertainty in following God, not uncertainty in where you're going to end up, but an uncertainty in how things are going to go in your life. Why? Because remember what I said earlier, it may not make sense to you how things are going, how God got things going, but in the end, it's going to work its way out. Because in the end of this, Jesus always had a place to lay his head. He didn't have a problem laying in his head. He just didn't know because he was evangelizing. He was traveling. One place here, one place there, one place there, may not have a place there, may have to be there, whatever. How they were getting their food. We saw that with the feeding of the 5,000 and the 4,000. Where did the food come from? They didn't bring food. They were not prepared. Uncertainty. But guess what, though? God was always making, his Father, in this sense, was always making a way. Then we got what's important, our priorities. So he says in verse 59, another man said, he said to another man, follow me. But the man replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Well, this is something that when we think about it in our time, in our day, very reasonable request. Nothing wrong with it, whatever. But this wasn't written in our time, in our day. This was written back then. And back then, you had a certain length of time that you had to bury. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You had to bury a person within 7 days of death back in the Jewish time. Okay? So if his father was dead, he would have already been there working on burying his father. But no, that was something he put before God. And we know for a fact, we all have heard or even said that I got to get this done first, or let me do this first. Let me get this out the way first, and then I'll follow God. Then I'll commit myself to the Lord. My priorities is I got to do something for myself first, and then I will follow God, instead of casting or storing my treasures up in heaven and then or putting God's kingdom first and then all of these things to be added unto me. No, I choose to put me first, and then I will add God later. And then we wonder why things don't work out. And then Jesus said to him in verse 60, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. So he told him, let spiritually dead people bury spiritually dead people, but you go out and preach your word. So when God is calling you to do something, your priority should be what? To go and proclaim God's kingdom. Not to sit there and say, I got to wait till I get my PhD, my bachelor's, my master's. I got to wait till my money's right. Got to wait till I get this. I got to wait till I got that. No, it doesn't work that way. That's why the path is narrow, y'all. Because this is no longer my way. This is just the plug, God's way. I have to do things God's way. And a lot of us is just not willing to do things God's way. Verse 61, still another said, I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Again, sounds like a much reasonable request. And Jesus replied, no one who puts his hands on a plow and looks back is fit for service in God's kingdom, in the kingdom of God. What does that mean? I know we don't do no plowing in our agricultural, we're not in an agricultural society, so we don't do plowing. But I got something for you. How about anybody who's driving a car, riding a bike, a scooter, skates, skateboard, any kind of thing that travels by some wheels or something like that, and you turn your head and look back and see how far you're going to go? Aren't you going to crash? You know for a fact you are. I don't know of anyone who can drive a car without looking forward. The car is going to curve and swerve. Skateboard, same thing. Bicycles, whatever mode of transportation outside, even walking, turn your head and try to walk straight and see how well that works. See, you can't do God's work looking back, reminiscing on the past, trying to relive your glory days like Al Bundy and Married with Children, always with the 4 touchdowns in high school. That was his pinnacle in life when he got 4 touchdowns in one game. And he bring that up, that, y'all who all watched the Bundys know that was his biggest accomplishment in life. 4 touchdowns in one game. Looking back, he was a shoe salesman. Never did anything to get out of that. Well, he did a couple of things, but it never lasted. Same thing with us. We're too busy looking back to ever go forward, to be on the straight path. If you're on a narrow path and you're looking back, you know you're going to fall off because the path is narrow. You got to be careful where you're placing your steps. We have seen some pictures of some very narrow roads, and I am not the squeamish, skittish, scariest type of guy, but there's some things I look at and say, I don't know if I would drive on that road. That road looks very, very dangerous. So if we are going to be on this narrow path that leads to life, we have to understand that there were going to be some uncertainties in our lives, that we got to make God's agenda our priority in life. This is our number one thing that we do. God's will has to be first for us, allowing his will to be first in our life, his agenda to be first in our life, and then our commitment of doing what God has called us to do. We will be on that narrow path. We have to understand that. Not only that do we have to understand it, but we must put it into play. We must apply it. We must put it into action. We can't sit up there and just want to think that my way, because that's what the world teaches us, y'all. We're programmed to want to be the ones who are so in control of our lives, but not understanding we're not in control of our life. We're not. Because if we're in control of our life, your dreams will already be accomplished. You would have already did all the stuff that you wanted to do in life. You can't do everything you want to do. Why? Because there's so many other factors that factor in that prevents you from getting to certain places in your life. So you're not in control. You're not in control. You may try, and some people say, well, and I'm one to say don't quit. But even, I tell my wife why there can never be a perfect crime, because there's always an X factor. That unknown thing that you didn't look at, you didn't think about, you couldn't foresee, popped up. And guess what? It spoiled the whole thing. I saw a thing this morning. Young lady, so she was 29 years old. She just had a baby or something like that, and she thought, she's on top of the world. She's feeling all great, and she ended up having a stroke at 29. Lost all feeling in the left-hand side of her body. She had to start all over. She said she couldn't even speak words. In an instant, y'all, her life changed. In an instant, our life can change. Why not put your faith in someone that's going to, one, still have your best interest in heart, even if things came your way from things we've done in our previous lives. Yes, I say previous life, what that means, things that you did back in the past. See, the law of the harvest, and I'm wrapping up, y'all. The law of the harvest is, if you plant a seed, the seed is going to grow. You got to reap what you sow. That's what the law of the harvest is. This bad life that we were living yesterday, we planted a ton of seeds. Guess what? Stuff is popping up all around us. But the fact that God is in control of our life, a lot of that stuff can just give us a little discouragement, give us a little discomfort, maybe cause a little pain, but God can take all that still away, and we can still have an abundant life that he promised us. So understand that the wide path leads to death, and only following God's way, yes, that's a plug, following God's way, which is the narrow path, will lead to life. That's it, y'all. That's what I got to say. I'm telling everybody, yes, I'm still on prayer. We need to continue to go out because we got to build this strong prayer life where people are going to be looking at you to pray for them. And we want to be in a position to get that prayer through. We want to be in a position to help them. We want to be in a position that encourage them to want to follow the Lord. Don't let people sit there and embarrass you by saying it's the Christians this, it's the Christians that. No, that's not it. I saw an article talking about the white Christianity thing. Okay, white Christianity, I don't know what that is. Honest to God, I don't. If that's what you call the Klan and the hatred and stuff, that I don't know why you call it Christianity. Why don't you just call it white hatred or whatever? But Christianity is a religion of love. What did I start off saying? The verse of the day that I wanted to post yesterday said all of God's commands could be summed up in just this one: love your neighbor like you love yourself. That was found in Galatians 5. I think it was 13. I'm not sure. But anyway, so if we are calling ourselves Christians and we calling ourselves following after Christ and obeying Christ, why are we not showing the love of Christ? What is the love of Christ? The fact that he died on the cross for sins that he never committed. Sins that I committed, sins that you committed, your parents committed, your grandparents committed, your siblings committed, your friends committed. That means everyone else is sins he died for. That's love. That's the love of Christ, to sacrifice ourselves for others. I may hate you, but I still got to love you. How does that work? I may not like the things that you do, but I don't wish any ill upon you. Don't wish nothing to hurt you. If you were falling down, you needed something, I would still try to help you. That's love. That's loving your enemy, not trying to eradicate them, not trying to bomb them, not trying to shoot them down, not trying to stab them. And I saw that too in this morning when I got up. It was so really just so depressing. I try not to, get caught up in stuff like that. But when I scroll through trying to see what goes on in the world, and all I'm seeing is shooting, stabbing, killing, deceit, lying, corruption, and all that goes on, all I can sit there and say, we're definitely going to the end times the Bible talked about. So everyone, we're praying for everyone that's going through chronic illness. We're praying through the cancers, the diabetes, the liver, the kidney issues, the MS issues, just mental issues, all the issues that we got going on. We're praying for folks. We need people names. If you want specific prayers, you can inbox us. Come on now. We got a God's Way page. We got a God's Way group page. People come together in prayer. We will accomplish so much more. Prayer, we're praying for that. We're praying for people who are in financial straits, those are in homeless straits, those that are battling depression, loneliness, whatever. We're still praying. We want God to show up in their lives. We want to be that vessel that his light shine brightly through. We're going to do it through prayer. We can do it through helping folks out. Stop acting like you're the only person that needs, because guess what? One day you may need someone to help you. And if you're not willing to help others, more than likely they're not going to be willing to help you. So we're praying for those. We're praying for those that's doing well, that they continue to be on that path of righteousness and doing right. Yes, we're praying for those that are not doing well, that God will, again, send that vessel, someone that helped them get themselves on that path of righteousness. And some people are just not going to make it. We're just going to have to accept that one also. And some of those that's not making it are going to be some of our loved ones. That's why it hurts my heart when I think about it. I don't want none of my loved ones not to ever make it. I pray to God that my sisters and brothers, all of them, from all both sides, I don't like the steps in-law and all that other mess. I don't like all that. My sisters and brothers are hearing and want to make sure that the path that they're walking is the path of God, Lord Jesus Christ, that right path, not because I like a minister, not because I like the bishop, not because I like anyone, not because I'm used to going here, but it's that right path that God has called us all to live on. Brother Josh, good morning. I'm sorry, my eyes are closed. I'm so caught up in this. Good morning, cuz. But that's what we're really praying for here. Like I said, we want to pray for everyone. The birthdays for the month of June. My baby oldest daughter birthday is going to be at the end of June. Definitely want to say a birthday for her. Uh, who else? Somebody has a birthday coming up early. I know I probably went through and said happy birthday to some folks, but we're saying happy birthday to everyone in the month of June. We're going to keep saying it every week. Like I say, I may have said happy birthday to you if I got on my page, scroll through. If not, I'm saying happy birthday to you now, that the Lord will definitely bless you on this special day of yours, and that he will give you his blessing and his favor. But in your heart and mind, please, please look to give your life over to him. That would be a great birthday gift. And anything else I got left? No. Pray for me as I travel along these dangerous roads. Like I said, I'm heading back to Georgia. I got some things I need to do. And then from that, I'll be driving wherever. I love everyone. I do. I hate the fact that we're in such a horrid society that we're in right now, but it's because we allowed the experiment to work. Okay? The experiment of taking God out of everything. Pledge of allegiance with God. Uh, saying prayer over food in public places, God. Don't want to mention God's name in public places. Forget you guys. I will mention God's name. Well, now it's a separation of God and state and all this nonsense mess. Who gives a hoot? Why I'm saying it? Because look at us now. You've had your way. Let's go back to God's way. Plug number 5. Love you guys. Have a blessed Sunday. Enjoy. Love someone. Love someone that you don't know. Help someone that you don't know. Remember the lady with the 2 mites. Jesus said she gave more than all of the rich people that was putting into the pan. Why? Because she sacrificed and gave her all, and God blessed her. Yes, he blessed her. Okay? So I love you guys. Have a blessed week. Pray for us. Fast. If you're not following God's Way Cathedral page or God's Way group, please like and start following, because that's where I want to post all our stuff. I'm posting outside to try to draw folks inside, because outside is wide, inside is narrow. Okay? Got me? Love you. Bye-bye.